call the HR committee meeting to order and request that everyone silence and put away all cell phones. The clerk will call the roll.
Feeny,
Here.
White,
Here.
Haig, here. Dirk Slooby, here. Schuster,
Here.
Hackbart, here.
We have quorum. I am seeking a motion to approve the minutes of the previous meeting on August 2nd, 2021.
So move.
Motion by Schuster. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Hackbarth. All in favor? Please say aye. All opposed? Motion carries. Item number 3, public comments. Those wishing to address the HR committee may now do so. Going once? Going twice? Going 3 times? There are no public comments. New business, item 5, discussion of employee retention and recruitment strategies. Administrator Donner.
Sure. I guess I'll start with a few comments. We have talked about this topic a little bit, I think, over the last year. Yeah, there was a little bit of discussion at the last meeting, which was August 2nd. I guess, it's been a while since we got together. And I think also back in June. Anyway, I guess we've all been recognizing, and I guess as I say, I'm probably preaching to the choir in terms of the HR professionals on our committee here as to what they're dealing with. And I guess that's part of what I'd like to get some perspective on tonight as well. But I had detached some articles on this topic. Some may be timely, some maybe not. Just kind of emphasizing some of the themes that we're probably looking at. Those are towards the back of this packet. I did share those prior to Thanksgiving, so I don't know whether anybody had time to take a look at any of those. There's one in particular, the first one, President Mark Maloney had sent me a copy of the article that Ryan Kowalski had written, I guess his first entry in a line of, or a series of articles he plans to put together. I don't know if he's putting another one out there yet or not, but titled The Great Resignation, and this one was first talking about 9/11 dispatchers, making reference to the number of people quitting their jobs being at an all-time high nationwide. And I know it's also a problem in Wisconsin, from what I've heard, in terms of resignations per month or something, is somewhere in the range of 50,000. Seems incredible, an incredible number. I did see a presentation on that back in September at a trade association meeting, and was hoping that I'd be able to share that, but unfortunately we're not able to do that unless we wanted to sit here for an hour and watch it. I guess we could do that maybe next time or something. Anyway, Mr. Kowalski's article made a reference to the municipal issue at Wausau being, resignations being at an all-time high, and I think the minutes and the packet for the Wausau HR meeting that I had attached and also referenced that or confirmed that. Ryan Kowalski's article talked about the municipal issues. We have constrained budgets. We don't have an unlimited checkbook. We have to be somewhat creative. Some of the factors are that, there's a level of danger and stress in our jobs. Maybe some lack of ability to innovate at times, depending on the size of your organization, perhaps, I guess, would be part of that. I think he questioned that as being a real valid reason. Then there was some discussion with some Marathon County representatives, including Lance Leonard, the administrator for the county, and just that they're seeing some level of expediency needed, but I guess I've also gotten some other feedback that maybe it isn't time to panic. I don't know. I know we need to start looking at things, and there are some things we can do and consider. And that's what this first item on the agenda is about. And the other comment that we see is, that it's more than about wages. I think you see that also in the article or the packet from the Wausau HR meeting in October, that there's, a relationship also to the organizational culture and other benefits and perhaps some perks, if you will, again, which is part of the first discussion here. The other articles were off, some different sources of the internet. One was from an International Public Management Association HR survey, just kind of indicating that public sector employers were seeing wages being less competitive in the public sector recently than with the private sector, but on the other hand, benefits were still probably on par based on the amount of or on the response summary anyway. I did not look at the study itself. I was just looking at the summary article. They didn't indicate that smaller organizations are having more trouble. So we're certainly in that category. They said organizations less than 500. Well, we're way under 500. So I know locally we've had some things here. I know we've talked about some of the recent, when we met relative to a couple efforts we made for employee retention earlier this year. And I know we also have been hearing that, the jobs like truck drivers or equipment operators are in higher demand more recently. This is more, again, anecdotal information and, I don't know what the other word, empirical information might be, but, when it comes to the topic of considering the wage or a compensation survey, that maybe isn't going to be as timely as we need it. So I think we need to be prepared to perhaps make some adjustment, shooting from the hip a bit, if you will. And then, I don't know, I guess there's mixed reports on what the impacts of inflation are going to be. Earlier in the summer, maybe we were feeling it was going to be hitting us pretty hard, but then there's other conflicting information. A more recent article, I guess that was one from Reuters, indicated that people were kind of pulling back on spending now. Whether that's an indication that inflation is going to maybe reduce or cost of living may reduce, I don't know. I'm not an economist. That's just my gut feeling is that inflation is coming and we need to be ready to react. Or I should say, maybe get ahead of it a bit here. Just from the Wausau HR committee packet, if you read the minutes from their September meeting, talk about some of the very things we are talking about tonight with our list of benefits and perks, if you will, that are provided for in our current personnel manual. There were resignation statistics there in Wausau. They date back, I think about 15 years, but it indicated that they've had double-digit resignations since about 2014. Highest numbers there were in public safety, public works, but the HR director had made mention that those are departments with the highest numbers of employees. Then the following commentary was that the highest turnover rates, when they kind of dissected the data, were from the clerks, the street maintainers, and sewer maintainers. They talked about exit interview feedback being that reasons for separating, some were beyond their control, but we need to focus on those that we can control. And, the ones that we can control, as was pointed out, our pay, benefits, and our management, environment, and culture. Again, going back to the things that are maybe, it's not entirely about wages. So then there's a number of recommendations made in terms of going forward. And one of those was, maybe they need to make a cost of living adjustment for all their employees. The challenge at this point, of course, is we have adopted a budget. We'd have to find ways to make some changes or adjustments. But I guess just to kind of start off the conversation, or at least introduce the topic here tonight, wanted to summarize that. So I don't know if before we go any farther, anybody wanted to offer any comments first of all, or not?
I have a question regarding the Wausau packet information. Is Village of Weston numbers rolled up into that?
No.
Okay, so When we look at your current vacancies, how many do you have? And do we know our own recruitment and retention for the village?
Well, right now, I'd say we have one vacancy based on a recent separation and recent resignation.
Okay.
I guess the other question would be if we feel we're at full staffing, and I know we probably feel we should be at least one more person in public works. I really haven't gotten any sense that we're short in other areas. Nobody's really made that comment. Like I said, not feeling that we are short other places.
So your
With respect to
turnover's been
police department,
turnover's been relatively low.
turnover's been low until more recently. No, I don't know. So what,
Yeah, I was just gonna say, like, our public works, our parks, our street department, there's 13 full-time staff members. Within the last year, we've got 4 new employees and 1 vacancy, so, I mean.
okay, but I think what you're, if I'm understanding your question, you're asking about turnover relative to resignations or I should say, retirements maybe?
Well, I'm just trying to understand your turnover compared to what we were looking at in WASA to understand where our focus might need to drive. Is it more on the recruitment side to be creative with recruitment strategies, or is it more about retention? So I was just trying to understand your turnover
Well, I
percentages
think-
for the
I
village.
think it's.
Linda, could you speak up a little bit? I'm not getting all your questions.
Oh, sorry. I was trying to figure out what our turnover is like here so that we can focus on either our recruitment strategies, be more creative, or is it more of a focus on retention of current staff? Just to get a better understanding, because I just saw the WASA numbers and I wasn't sure what the village numbers were. And if it's a little bit of both, then that's a little bit of both.
So I think what we've been, I guess, preparing ourselves for is some retirements. We've had a more experienced more experienced staff, a lot of long tenured employees here. I guess in Public Works alone, where we had 4 retirements probably. I don't know when, and I can't remember when some of these people retired. We had Landy Kappa, Dick Wanta, Tony. These were all 30-year employees. Now, we also had our fleet foreman take a job with the technical college to do training rather than climb under truck. I mean, there's some reasons for some of this turnover that we really can't control either. But I know we've been anticipating our workforce becoming younger over time, and I think it's coming to pass fairly quickly. And I guess my concern would be then, as we bring these younger people in, we're able to keep them. And also the people that we have on staff, that we're not forgetting that they've made some, I don't want to say sacrifices, but I think, there has been some things they've been through. If you go back to the Act 10 implementation, when benefit levels got cut and there was no compensating increase in, say, for instance, we talked earlier today with when the Wisconsin retirement system contribution by the employer was eliminated for the employer portion. In some places, there was an offsetting or a corresponding increase in wages that was given. That was done in certain places, it was not done for our employees. So I think and maybe there's a little bit of hangover from that, some of that stuff still comes into play, but again, I think we want to be mindful that, there's some things that were also given up as Act 10 got implemented, and as we had budget constraints. Another one of those is longevity pay, which we're now seeing that there's some places that are implementing that again as a kind of retention, even in possibly a recruitment strategy. Although recruitment wise, it seems that it's more about what am I gonna make now versus what is it gonna mean to me in the future. So yeah, we have some things to probably work on in terms of our, recruitment strategy. And yeah, this is, emphasize the benefits of some of these things that are gonna have a more of a long-term impact for you. So I don't know if I've answered your question. I hope I have.
Well, and you may have already answered this and I didn't hear it, but your exit interview, is it primarily salary that people are leaving for, or is it a mix?
Depends on the individual and their circumstances. Yeah, it's not a, and if you're talking to somebody that's leaving because they're retiring, and then you're gonna get.
Well, I would take off retirements.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
a whole
Right.
different deal.
Yeah.
They're not leaving because they're mad, they're leaving because they've been here long enough. And so I'm talking about, the fleet foreman, for instance. He's a relatively young fellow. Was it strictly money or something?
Yeah, well, it was partially that, but it was also partially I want to say, a misalignment with supervision or
Okay.
was
Okay.
his job duties and so forth, so I guess, to be honest, there was a consideration for him to come back on his part, and anyway, in the end, he decided not to after all, so. Anyway, the door's still open, we wouldn't necessarily, bar somebody from coming back if they want to, but sometimes we can't just, we can't probably fix everything that may be bothering somebody, I suppose.
One of the things, and I think I'm the only one under 30 in the room, is,
Good for you.
is just, I have certain or the millennial generation, which is as old as 45 now, and, Gen Z, which is 18 or 19 now and entering the workforce, we have very different priorities than previous generations. For me personally, if, one of the things that I really enjoy is working from home. And I never thought I would. I was an office guy, but I love it. So I think one thing that would really help attract new talent from a younger perspective would be 2 days, 1 or 2 days a week, you can work from home, as long as you continue to get everything done. And all of my tasks are timed, my supervisor can see how much time I'm working on a task. And actually, I'm more productive at home than I ever was in the office because there's fewer distractions. Also the recognition and not so much being told, but that I'm doing a good job, but a different relationship is expected. So it used to be that if you saw the supervisor coming, that was never a good sign. But rather, and I think that Weston, based on what I've seen with supervisor and employee relationships, is it's more collaborative, it's more cooperative, and that's definitely a draw.
Can I add, or question, the
Sure.
flip side of that? Years ago, I can remember a certain person saying in the hiring process, well, we want somebody that's gonna be around for 25 years. So my other question is, are we canceling off candidates consciously or subconsciously that may only be here for 5 or 6 or 10 years
Or even less, because,
or less?
sorry, millennials tend to leave within.
That's a fear of a lot of people coming for an interview for a job. Oh, I'm too old, they won't hire me. And I guess I won't ask you to answer that question, it's just sometimes hate to say this, sometimes the older employees are much more loyal, and it may help with retention of employees, although you may not have them for as long, but I don't think today you can look at anybody and say, boy, I hope he or she sticks around for 20 years. It's rare nowadays, so.
I mean,
I can't say it's ever been a factor as far as what
I was just gonna say, like, when Keith became administrator, I moved up, the deputy director we hired was Dan Raskowski. He had over 30 years of experience at that time.
Okay.
Then same thing when Doug Banky left and Jason moved in to the fleet role. The mechanic we hired was Brian Schmidt, who again had over 20 years of experience when we hired him. So I mean, in our recent hires, we look for the best fit,
Yeah.
And sometimes it is that person with 20+ years of experience to come in and.
I'm only saying, I did preface by saying past administration, and I didn't know if that was,
I just want to let people know that.
yeah, good.
Going off of, I was gonna go exactly where you were gonna go, Nate, too, is that it is a very different environment for millennials. And well, not even that, Gen Z is even, has a different, they don't wanna do tasks, they don't wanna do things, they want a vocation. So you need to connect them to meaningful work. And I think that is really the value that they have right now. It's not about the money as much as you would think it is, or the benefits. It's about, I feel like I'm contributing, I feel like what I do matters, and I get constant feedback from my supervisor that I am on the right track. That's a huge thing that we're seeing with millennials, Gen Z. And then that flexibility, that work schedule flexibility and the ability to work from home. We're seeing people leave. We have not gone to a work from home policy that's formalized yet. There is some flexibility at my organization, but because of that, we have started to lose quite a few people who have wanted to go to a fully remote opportunity. Like, that is a big draw right now for people that during the pandemic, they saw, hey, I can do my job from home. I want a job where I can work from home. That's a big value for a lot of people. But flexibility is another big value for a lot of people. One thing I thought was interesting also with the city of Wausau, they had a lot of data and they had a lot of historical information. But in that historical information, it showed that like 5 years ago, they've faced the same number of resignations. So it's not like this is a flash in the pan. This has been going on, that there was a different point. I always caution database decision-making and kind of getting to a root cause is always the best thing, because once you go and you increase something based on, oh, we think this is gonna be the magic bullet, you can't go back. So I would recommend like doing a deep data dive, doing a root cause analysis, gathering some of that exit interview thing, because it might not be about the monetary things at all. It could really be about fit. It could be about the culture. It could be about different things that someone's like, or the flexibility, the opportunity to work remotely. Those might be more of your answers before you would jump to just going, oh, we need to increase people's salaries. Because these generations that are coming up, it's about vocation.
Yep.
It's about meaningful work more so than, because they could go work at McDonald's right now for $17 an hour. That's why McDonald's is offering so much, because nobody wants to do it. It's not a vocation. They would rather have meaningful work. So I think that's what I have been seeing and learning a lot lately. And I don't know.
Yeah, I would add to that as I was kind of thinking about this as well, as I think we need the data component of it. So what does our turnover actually look like? What positions are high turnover positions that we need to, be more intentional about perhaps? Exit survey data is always helpful and useful. I'd also throw out a suggestion is considering doing stay interviews. What do our current people want? What's causing them to stay here? You guys have great longevity. What's that employee value proposition look like? And then how do we promote that as an employer of choice? You've got people here 20, 30 years. Why should people come and work for us? Then we should use that as part of that employer of choice strategy. But what does our culture say about us? So I think there's some more data that we need to gather as well, so that we can, target the right strategies. To your point about McDonald's, this inflation of compensation, we've been seeing it for years. It drives me crazy, because we know that this is not sustainable long-term, especially when we have to adhere to a budget that's really, really tight. We have to find other creative solutions, but we have to know what our workforce really wants from us.
And that's why I think it's kind of that you see like, okay,
McDonald's is gonna pay, $17 an hour, it's because McDonald's can't get people to work.
Right.
It's not because
Mhm.
that's what that job is valued at.
Right, correct.
And so that I think that's also, without doing a root cause analysis and kind of digging back in deeper, if they could hire people, they wouldn't be offering $17 an hour, they'd be
Right.
back at, $8, $9
Right,
an hour.
right,
And it will
right.
come back around
It will,
eventually.
it will.
They're gonna
They won't be
eliminate
able to
jobs,
afford it.
automation,
Yeah.
we've already seen it, they're automating everything, trying to get away from having to hire anybody.
Yeah.
And so, essentially, there's not gonna be a job available for more than, it's already to that point with the
Mhm.
fast food.
Yeah.
And, so that doesn't mean that everyone should then go, okay, well, McDonald's is 17, so that's the baseline we need to go off, so we need to compensate, It's not about that, because if
Right.
$17 an hour was working, McDonald's wouldn't be hiring, so, needing to hire, Starbucks wouldn't be closing their doors over in Mountain, right? If it was working,
Right.
The other thought I had, now I lost my train of thought, I'll come back. There was another compensation thing I was thinking of.
Lauren, did you have something?
Yes, it is.
Okay, and then the chair will recognize President Maloney.
So reiterating on trustee Feeney's about flexibility in their work and working from home, that works great, but it's been my experience that most of the leaving and coming are in the utility and streets side, which is
Yeah.
pretty hard to work from home.
Right, right.
And let's face it, working, as an example, the last snowstorm, I would have, when you called up people early. I'm so old, I have to think about it all the time. But,
We do too, Lauren.
don't laugh, you'll get over it.
There with you.
So that's a great thing for the office staff, but over the years that I've seen, been here, there's always been, it's not very prominent, but there's always this clash between office staff and utilities and public works employees. The same way there's always a conflict between public works employees and police department. Those of us who've worked in municipal government understand it. Well, I should be getting paid as much as a police officer. I used to hear that argument when I was coming up to the ranks in police. And my answer to that was, I tell you what, you strap on a gun and take on some of these people and you can have as much pay.
Mhm.
But that's a pretty narrow view of what some people think. It's all about the money. I can speak from having a son who's what's he, a millennial? No, he's 47, so he's dang near, he's a.
Close to an X.
Close
X,
He's close to an X.
X.
But at any rate, when he left this country to go to Australia, he didn't even have a job. And every time he's moved, he's never had a job where he moved to.
Good for him.
He's always gotten a job. And it's like, wow, as an older person, I would have never thought of that. I mean, gosh, I got 2 rugrats at home, they gotta be fed. And I don't know if that's a philosophical difference, and I don't know if as a municipal employer that we can actually address those issues. What can we do? I mean, the work at home thing is great, particularly if you have really industrious and employees that are willing to put in the time. Both my son and my daughter-in-law have been working from home for almost 2 years now. And especially, they've got a 5-year-old. And so it's kind of funny to listen to them talk about the monkey in the background making all the noise and interrupting. It's true. So money, I think money may be it, but I don't think a lot of people are looking at the long-term benefits that are offered through municipal employment. The retirement plan is great if you can survive 30 years. Even though everybody on occasion can find a health insurance program that's better than here, I think you'll find out once you get into a private employer, you find out the health insurance benefits are not as great as they are. So I think it's a question of trying to get people that are interested in municipal employment to understand the total compensation that you get. Yeah, I get it that you're lucky you can get somebody to stay 5 years, and I agree with that, but it's not, we all know it's not all about money. So it's a really hard thing to figure out. I think without having actually, somebody say, we're getting hey, we need another 50 cents an hour. To be honest with you, I have 50 cents an hour is nothing. It's $1,000 a year. That's the increase in gas for a year. But we, as a municipality, can't offer $10,000 or $15,000. The only things we can offer are things that are not totally monetarily based. Flexibility is one of them, but it doesn't work for everybody. And I think that sets up barriers, it sets up silos. So I will be quiet now.
Chair recognizes President Maloney.
I just want to ask the question so everybody knows, how many employees do we have here, not including safety? 30 what?
36.
36 total employees. All right, now let's go to Wausau. How many did Wausau have? A couple hundred?
I guess I don't know what their number.
I just, some of the data I was talking to Lance Leonard too about how many Marathon County has. They have,
Hundreds.
hundreds, they have two, yeah. But Wausau is what, 3 times larger than us? Not quite. But they have definitely 3 times more. Probably 4 or 5 times more. But I mean, just put it in perspective, 36 people, and I work with 800. And dealing with people at home, that's a really big issue. You have to increase your communication. Way, way, way more. I mean, and we, as a private company, we can make up our increases by cost of goods. We'll charge more. We have to. We gotta be in business. We gotta secure the company. We can't do that here. So maybe, actually, I like, Mickey, I like yours ideas. It's gotta be that they wanna work here. That's the part we have to sell, is that, maybe the security. I mean, right now, I'd be pushing that new building, big time. I mean, all the mechanics here, all inside, that's huge, that the building compared to what's here. I'm sure you don't give them tours when you wanna try to hire them here. Maybe you do.
We do.
And they probably just shake their
Oh
head
my
and walk
God.
away,
Just
when
to
they start
think,
seeing that, it'll be.
getting into
it'll be
a warm
big deal.
truck to
Yeah.
come plow streets.
So and I know I sent that stuff that, I like to read a lot of Brian's stuff and just the way he thinks. But I was kind of more just showing you what Wausau's going through, because I kind of don't think we're having I know we're talking about it a lot, but I don't know if we really have that.
I guess I'm not saying that.
Yeah, I know you're not, yeah.
I just,
Yeah.
We
wanna prepare.
Know that it's out there and we can't just ignore it.
I'm not in favor of these surveys, because half the time they're not correct. It's like, I can't believe we don't share better. It should be mandatory that other municipalities should have to share honestly what they're paying. And we don't have time to get some of that stuff back. We just have to do what we have to do, or we have to increase production. So anyway, that's it. Thank you, Chair.
Mr. White?
I just happened to, somebody asked about the number of employees. In 2019, they had 526. Wausau, city of Wausau,
How many?
526,
What year?
2019.
That would include their police and fire.
That's gotta be safety
It's
too.
in all employees.
Yeah, okay.
As we're looking, sorry. As we're looking at all of this from a recruitment and retention strategy, some of the things you can control are within your environment and your culture. So are you considering, do your managers meet on a regular basis with their staff? Do they meet monthly? Like, you hold them accountable to make sure that they meet monthly with their staff, and you can then include some of the things Robin said about your state interviews. If your manager is meeting monthly and maybe you come up with a list of set questions, it can be really quick. We implemented this where I work, and everyone asks the same exact questions. So you're getting that same data, and it's the questions that you can control.
Right.
Do you have, what's working well? What are your concerns? Who can I recognize that have helped you with something? Then your managers are gathering that data, somehow saving it somewhere so that you can have some sort of a dashboard so you can start seeing the trends. In this department, what are the trends? Is it a trend organization-wide? And when you talk about, someone else talked about the recognition, that is so important, especially when you're looking at your retention strategies. Those little thank yous go so much further than a 50-cent wage increase, as you had mentioned, Lauren. So do you equip your managers, get them a toolbox? They're cheap. Go to the dollar store and get a plastic container, get some thank you cards, put them in there, get some birthday cards, get some cheap anniversary cards, put them in there for your managers, so they can start in really establishing a better relationship with your current staff to really become engaged, because I tell you what, when these millennials, and even me, I love getting a thank you card from my boss. I love getting a thank you card from another staff member. Now, not everyone's on the same campus, so there are free websites that you can do e-praise cards. You can send those out. So if your managers are being held accountable to do that on a monthly basis, you're gonna start to see that employee engagement increase even more and give you another leg up to wanna stay here. And those are little things you can do now, it doesn't cost hardly anything. E-praise cards are free.
And especially great as we look to more that hybrid remote workforce and that flexible workforce, organizations have to be much more conscious about making sure that out of sight isn't out of mind.
Right.
Because you have to create that sense of loyalty and that sense of commitment and connection to the organization, or it's gonna be really easy for them to take another remote type position.
Being included, hearing good morning,
Yeah,
that's a
exactly.
big deal.
Right.
When I'd hire people,
Yeah.
if they'd walk by me, and I'm usually the one that talks, because I talk so much. But if I would actually not say good morning, and then they'd walk by me and not say, whoa, 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 hey, where's the good morning?
Yeah.
Whoa, I thought you were busy. No. And all of a sudden, that starts to open up. Yeah, good point.
I've heard the same for years, and personally it holds true for me. People don't quit their jobs, they quit a bad supervisor, so
Yeah.
any kind of.
Atmosphere, yeah.
Yeah, atmosphere,
Culture.
I left, jobs because of supervisors, not because I, wanted to go anywhere else, I liked what I was doing, but it was a supervisory relationship that made me want to leave the organization. And I would say that is what I have seen over the years is going to be the critical thing that will keep a person or have a person leave. It's not about money, it's not about anything else, it's gonna be about management. And so management training is something that, like at my organization, we actually we do regular manager training. We meet, depending on what time of year it is, we meet every other week and get professional development for all the management staff, led by our HR team. And then sometimes we bring in people from outside, but it's all about having those conversations with managers, helping them, and then it's all about developing as managers. And then, when it gets a little bit busier, we only meet once a month. But it's usually led by our president. She kicks it off and she's like, this is what, and it's also a touch point where she's like, what's going good in your lives? She does, we can discuss personal things and professional things. And it really, I've never worked at an organization that did that. And I will tell you, that is one of the things that I think helps the culture of our organization do really well.
I think I don't know if this Ideas for Employee Retention and Recruitment was Wausau or if it was the Village.
That's from us.
That was from the Village. They had
Yes.
some good ideas. One of which was about an employee of the month. Maybe twist that a little bit to consider employees recognize others for some sort of an award, where the employees nominate other peers for maybe going above and beyond something within do you have a value statement or a mission statement, or how they met that or exceeded that, and you come up with a nomination form. It doesn't have to be really crazy. And they fill it out and you have some sort of committee to review it, or a couple supervisors get together. And therefore that it encourages that recognition, because supervisors can recognize all they want, but if there's not good cohesive team amongst the group, then that can fall apart too. So if you get that encouraging from team to team, then that can help too. And maybe you give them a small gift card or some sort of certificate of achievement and put it on social media within your own group.
We actually had an internal Facebook page type internally, and it was peer recognition. Basically, you could nominate anybody or just do a high five or a shout out. And it just took off like wildfire. It's very cool. Yeah. And then once a month, we just have a random drawing. All of the nominations went in a bucket.
Perfect.
Trustee Wood?
We had, at the hospital, they had fellow employees nominate heroes, they call them heroes.
Yeah, the hero.
And you got a little pin, a little plaque. You'd be surprised, it's
Pin.
like, wow.
Yeah. Yeah.
But little things like, oh, you helped me with a patient that was really difficult, or something really simple.
Yep.
It didn't cost a lot of money either, from what I understand.
Mr.
You know,
Schuster?
something on a bigger scale too, not necessarily the village, but more the village board. Lauren raised the point, and we talked about this 15, 20 years ago on the village board level. The millennials go and live where they want to be, where they want to live, then they find a job. And we've been talking about that for a long time. The millennials are looking for a different sort of community. If they had their druthers, they would live upstairs of the downstairs grocery store, gas station. Well, no, they wouldn't even have gas stations because they'd be riding.
Electric Charles.
Get to work and gathering places at night. So there's a whole array of things that you really gotta think about to get them here and then maintain them.
And, like has been said, by several of you, previously, there's no silver bullet. It's just the accumulation of doing things that are more, in line with the culture and what people wanna see.
It's a whole bunch of things.
Do you do any
I
employee
guess-
referral bonuses? Do you have a referral program, an employee referral? If there was a recruitment problem, that's where I would love to know the stats of, if you have a recruitment problem, something very simple that you can implement is like an employee referral bonus program where, because good people know good people. So promote that to your own internal staff to go and find good people and offer some sort of incentive. I know you're talking about retention bonuses or sign-on bonuses or something like that, but give it to your current staff. Don't do it to the new hire, because that will just cause a ton of friction, because your staff will find out about it. They'll see the posting and they'll go, why can't I get that? But if you do a referral bonus, you pay it out. We have one and we pay it out over 18 months. You know, they get so much after 6 months and then so much after another 6 months. It doesn't have to be a huge dollar amount, but it's nice for them to see that. If there's a recruitment problem.
No, I guess the only thing I'd say there is I know we've noticed that there's a smaller or lesser amount of applicants for most of these jobs anymore and
Across the board, right, across the board.
We're looking for people with experience, we're probably not gonna find them. I think we'll also HR director comment on that, you know, you're gonna have to probably resign yourself that you're gonna be spending more time on training. Find the right.
But that's okay. I mean,
Yeah,
our company, we hire attitudes and we train the rest.
Absolutely.
And I mean, they could know nothing about produce, but if they have the attitude is a really hard thing to get across over years. And if you can bring them in with the attitude and train the rest, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a phenomenal. By the way, I'll personally put up $100 referral right now for our 7th member. So somebody out of this group right here, if we somebody and we get them on board, $100 right there.
For the HR committee?
We need one more.
Oh, okay.
There's a name that's out there, I just want to get this off real quick. I can't find her.
Trustee White?
Well, I think some of these things on this list, Fred's been around long enough. We've had the 4-day work week in the past during the summer.
Can we, maybe as part of the.
Perhaps I'm too old for you to remember.
I put a table together that shows all the things that are provided for right now in our employee handbook. It includes some of these things at the level of, say, a department director discretion. Now, I know we've not really done them on a wholesale basis. The case in point, I guess, is the modified work week. That has become something that other, Village of Rothschild, Town of Rib Mountain.
Hampton County Highway.
Hay was talking about doing it. It's becoming more, more one of these things that's offered as kind of a perk, if you will. I've always been opposed to it. For going to say, 4-day work week, 4 10s, all, across the board. And because you're leaving one day that normally was uncovered potentially. Or I think the other option or other idea is, 4 9s and a 4, however you want to slice and dice it. But we have done 4 10s in the summertime with our public works staff when we have a project going on and in the interest of being more productive during that time of the year, and it, you know, there's some level of discretion department directors are given now. I guess when we talk about the work from home option, which also there is a provision in our handbook for allowing, you know, flexible work arrangements where someone can telecommute. That certainly isn't available to every employee. That's not, there's only, you know, certain staff members that might be eligible for that. So I guess my question was, if we went through this thing line by line, if you've gone through it, you know, and are there things that jump out at you? My comment was that we can focus on the things that have zero budget impact, first of all, and then, you know, there are places where we could probably massage, or I should say, and make some substitutions. One thing was the employee clothing allowance and uniforms. We'd spend money on uniforms and furnish uniforms. We also give a reimbursement up to a certain dollar amount for winter clothing for the people that work in, you know, outside, you know, expose the elements and so forth. So kind of the thought that Michael had was, you know, we could rearrange how that's spent so it really doesn't have any net budget impact. But that's a great idea as far as I'm concerned. That really doesn't take any, I don't know if that requires any approval of a committee or the board. I guess I just think those are things that we can do to fit within our current framework, our current guidelines, I guess. But then going beyond that, I guess, is things that we probably need to do a little more research on and come back with to you and to the board. We're trying to get a sense of what, you know, what in here is. Maybe one of my questions was, how does this compare to what you, your employers may offer? Or is that topic off limits when it comes to private employers comparing to the public?
I work in public works. I'm at a public organization. My last two employers, some benefits that we had that really go over really well, and they're no cost, depending on how you look at it. But what ended up happening for a lot of and they both are large organizations with many employees, but what we were finding was in 4th of July week and Christmas week, the people who had more seniority and more vacation time would take off. And then the people who had less time off would work and would generate a bunch of work. And then when all the, you know, people, the supervisors, managers came back, there was a lot of work that was kind of prepared, and then they were behind even more time then. So they kind of did an analysis, and they decided that if we do shutdowns for the week of 4th of July and the week of Christmas, it's fully paid, it's just everybody's off together. Actually, productivity went up. You know, everybody was able to relax. So now we actually have, well, my current employer does not have 4th of July shutdown, but that's fine, because we actually, instead, we have the adjusted summer schedule. So we only work 4 days a week. So we have every Friday off during the summer. So those things are huge. A lot of people, you know, even when you look at a benefit package, when people come into our organization, they're like, I don't have to work 4th of July week and I don't have to work Christmas. It was huge because that's on top of their vacation time. That's a value to a lot of people. See, and then with my current employer, we have the every Friday off. I mean, I could never give that up now.
Right.
I mean, but that's just it. I couldn't. I mean, it's like 3-day weekends all summer long.
That's awesome.
And I think people, I know that, you know, this is a municipal building, but I work at a municipal building too. People adjust. They're like, oh, I just know I have to make time and I have to make adjustments. We get them notice ahead of time. We're gonna be closed. This is when, you know, we start posting things, make it out there. We put it on social media. We say, hey, if you need something, that's great, but we're gonna be closed during these days, you know. And really, there's never really, I mean, it's a little bit difficult for people who have to do snow plowing and stuff like that. But we also did that too with our facilities people. If they end up having to get called in or have to be there during that time, they then got a floating holiday for using later on. So that they could get compensated at a, at a like
Premium.
higher rate, at a premium rate on the off chance that they needed to come in and handle something. But I mean, that's a big draw.
We're doing summer hours right now, right? Somebody, right?
Sure.
Don't we do a 4 o'clock and 5 o'clock, right? I thought we did summer hours. No?
No.
The road crew doesn't need it?
No, they're 7 to 3, 365.
I would definitely support 410s for the summer.
For the summer.
That would.
During the summer?
That would be huge.
Yeah, I think.
That would be huge. I would have been very against it years ago. But I am, because it's really, when you think of the service side, look at what we're doing. We're locking the building down now, basically. A lot of it's online. And, it's just the way it is. So 410s, oh my God. I think hopefully you'd have them standing up at the door. Don't you have two?
Is there any comparison
Aren't you
ever been
Christmas
done
Not anymore.
as to?
Deer hunting was off
productivity?
one time?
One time, it
410s
was,
and
Mr. July
5
shut down as well.
Okay.
I guess if you can think about the time it takes to get ready to get out in the morning and you're gonna have time in between that's, you're gonna be more productive during
You have
that.
6 months to think about it and figure it out as directors.
Yeah.
But you could give that notice right now to the employees and, I mean, it'd be like wildfire, just like that.
Yeah.
And then you're right, you'd have to get your extra pay for your snow plowing, not snow plowing, but I mean your water breaks, stuff that has to get done anyway.
Emergency stuff.
Emergency stuff, they get extra pay anyway.
Yeah.
But otherwise, 410s, I know you put on your 4 9s and then a half, the half doesn't cut it.
No.
You gotta be in your pajamas.
It does.
Half a day is right.
You gotta get that second cup of coffee in your pajamas, I mean, otherwise, you gotta come in for 4 hours, it doesn't
So
work.
when other communities talk about this, this is extended to their whole staff. This is done with their staff that works outside, it's done with the staff that works in the office.
Yep.
Okay.
I would say yes.
I guess that's what I've heard, and I know
Yeah.
Ramon has approved it.
Yep.
I know Jessica can probably
Yeah.
vouch for that.
I'm only gonna stay for one more item here, but tonight's my night to cook. But I didn't think we'd be talking this long on this one issue. Are we gonna kind of move a little bit? So, I mean, are we actually gonna try to decide all this tonight?
No,
No,
that was
okay.
my intention.
Have another, more data was asked for.
Yep.
And then maybe we can write some more stuff down. as a
Get down
group.
to several choices instead of a whole list.
Yep.
Yeah, and if I may just make one more additional comment to your question. Looking at your tangible items from a compensation benefit standpoint, you guys are extremely competitive, if not better, than most private
Sorry,
sector
what was that?
employers, I think. So, I mean, I think that's great to promote that. But I also think we need to think about those intangible things. How are we making that connection, strengthening the culture, and making sure that people are, again, having that positive relationship with their supervisor? And that's one thing that I did notice on the list of, the brainstorm, which was great. I didn't see any of those more intangible type things connecting people to the culture of this organization.
Not just an annual review,
Right,
but like 4 times.
yeah,
And,
Right.
that
Not-
communication, if they don't feel included,
they're gonna
I
want,
mean, we do this too much to not like what we do.
right.
If I didn't like what I did, I'd be gone.
Mhm.
There's no way I'd stay. Too much.
Trustee White, and then we will move on to the next item.
Quick question, we've returned to the all staff meeting, has there been any feedback on that, Mr. Bowden? Yes, no, is it,
Positive or negative?
yes, both positive and
I think they're viewed as positive, I guess. I don't let our employees jump up and down and say, hey, it's the greatest thing ever. John's here tonight. What do you think, John? I'll put you on the spot.
Oh, it's great.
No, it ain't. I think we should, I mean, the board sits up here, you guys all sit over there, and all the servers are over here. I think we gotta mix it up. I think you guys have to serve one time. Yep. And then, seriously, I mean, then you get to talk to
I
everybody.
think we should,
it used to be
But I
potluck.
love them.
I think we should draw numbers for seating or something, so that we
Yes.
all end up
Yes.
sitting.
I love
somewhere
them.
else.
I was not a proponent for it when I first got on board. Wally wasn't either, but we also closed the building. We don't close the building, but we are kind of closed. At that time, it was all I thought about was service, but I very much enjoy them. And I think the last 2 or 3 we've had, I think are good. People are talking. You can hear the roar, I mean, you have to actually quiet them down. So, get a lot of stuff done over food. A lot of stuff.
Yes.
Yep.
We did do the employee of the, whatever, That was one thing that.
And he does do employee recognition.
When we met regularly, we resumed them, so I guess that's something we can bring back as well.
We used to have nominations by fellow employees,
You
and
know-
that's how that was presented at those all staff meetings.
I promise Nate, I'm gonna quit talking, but you know, everybody can do paper for the whole month or 2 months, okay? I think you make them do it right here during the lunch. It might be hard for some people that can't talk, but hey, I saw something 2 weeks ago and so, John, you know, I always told Keith about you over at the fire department. How hard you worked your tail off out there doing all that landscaping, and so did Jessica Polkowski. I mean, you're just constantly out there, just manicuring that. I drive by there a lot, and I was really impressed, I really was. But that'd be kind of neat if people actually said it right there out loud, and after a couple meetings, they'd be used to it. It'd be kind of fun. They'd joke around with it, maybe say something different, I don't know. Just a
I have one more and then I'll stop you, I'm so sorry.
I'll-
But on that regard, that recognition is so important. One of the things one of my former bosses did is at the end of the year, they sent, now I had no idea they were doing this, a card to my husband to thank him for all the dedicated time that that I was taken away from my family. And that I was like, wow, that had such a big impact. I mean, you send it to their home.
Yeah.
So mix up your recognition. You can do that in person, you can do cards at their desk, but sending a recognition note to the employee's home for the rest of the family can see, it wows the entire family. And then guess what they do? They talk about it.
Oh, yeah.
And it spreads and so anyway, okay, I'll stop, thank you.
So,
If you have too many ideas, Wayne, I'll never look creative.
Oh, go, do it, take them, do it.
I think we've had some great discussion on item 5. And in the interest of fairness to the Maloney household, we will move on to item 6. The reason why I asked for this to be on the agenda is I noticed that we were going to have this conversation anyway. And again, being the only one under the age of 30.
No, bring it up again. Bring it up again. Doesn't bother me.
Did we say 40?
I've seen you drive.
I felt like this would dovetail nicely. With our recruiting, I'm not gonna say problems, but future opportunities, as well as a changing work culture. I think that we should discuss the idea of paid time off for newborns and adoptions outside of current PTO or sick time. The way that I emailed Clerk Weinkoff and Administrator Donner was 4 weeks for both parents. And the reason for that is, as I think everyone but me in the room knows, is that those first few days are so critically important. And with millennial and Gen Z men starting to pick up more of the child rearing duties, I think it's only fair to offer it to both. So I think that this would be a good recruiting tool. And considering that families are having fewer kids, I don't think that this would be a huge issue for finance or work concerns.
I have a question related to this with the income continuation. I was looking at your benefits. Is that like your short-term disability policy? So
Short and long.
short and long. So if I'm a female having birth, I qualify for short-term disability, I'm assuming for 6 weeks?
Mhm.
And then 8 weeks if it's a cesarean section?
Yes.
Okay. So you're providing some income to the female for that. So then on the flip side, what can be done for the parental leave for the male side, outside, in addition to the current medical leave bank that we have today,
Right,
correct? Okay. I
yes,
just wanted to
this
clarify.
was entirely equality based.
Got it.
On what base?
Equality, both men and women.
So I have a question for our HR people that are here. FMLA, it's my understanding that covers the adoption and the birth of a newborn, does it not?
50 or more employees.
I was just gonna
50,
say,
okay.
yeah,
That's
kids
the-
only
that's the
have
catch.
36 employees, so you wouldn't qualify.
Okay,
For.
Yes, so,
even under the state?
So we,
yeah, and that's just literally for job protection. That has
Right.
nothing to do with the compensation side. So you are compensating under the disability because the female is disabled at that time because it takes a long time to heal. So there's no job protection for that male to take any paternal leave underneath, because you only have 36.
Well, so, and maybe this is an area, I know we need to update our handbook. I think when our handbook was created, we adopted the FMLA, the Family Medical Leave.
Oh, you do follow it?
Yes.
And I think at the
Oh,
time,
great.
But we don't
initially,
have to.
we don't have to, but I
Hey,
think when this was developed, we had to include all of our lifeguards, because we employed the lifeguards at the aquatic center in the summer, and those
oh,
employees
so your
counted.
number is raised?
So then, now that we have outsourced, or now that we're working through the YMCA to hire the lifeguards and do the actual management of the facility theoretically, people don't count as employees, so now, yeah, whatever number's here is the number that we would abide by. So we no longer have to, I guess we no longer have to adopt the FMLA. I guess we have the option to follow it if we wish under the handbook.
You could, and really all that does is provide job protection to the staff. It has nothing to do with the compensation side.
It's in chapter 13, by the way.
And-
12 weeks in
13.05.
a 12-month period.
I happen to be involved in.
12 weeks in a 12-month period. It's floating.
Correct, and it's.
Whenever you started.
Yep,
And it depends on how
And
you.
it starts over, yeah.
It depends on how you track your FMLA.
Right.
State of Wisconsin starts over every January. Under federal, you can do rolling look-backs.
Yep.
But no matter what, come Wisconsin, like if I have a serious health condition for myself outside of a birth, it's 2 weeks and that automatically starts over January. So depending on when people get on leave, it gets a little tricky to manage.
Yeah.
How much time they actually get off.
I've done it consistently on the rolling.
You do.
It's rolling, it's 52 consecutive weeks and it's,
Whatever you want to start it.
Except for under the state of.
you'd have to work 1,000 hours during that
Over
52 weeks.
January.
But we're such a small workforce that we really don't,
Yeah.
I've never had two people take FMLA within a year.
We're lucky.
For sure, we have to exclude both safety elements. Because they're, I mean, was the police department, when it was just Weston, when the fire department was just Weston, were they part of the group then?
Part of,
I mean, can't we take half the employees from each of those entities? And be over 50, is what I'm saying, if that's a
I
hurdle.
don't know what, we can still follow it regardless, they must
Okay.
follow it themselves.
Okay, that's right, okay.
It's in the handbook and we
Yep.
have been following it.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're
Right.
offering something much more generous than you even have to offer.
Right,
So, yeah.
even though we're
In
not.
trouble if you don't do it the right way.
So we might as well follow.
We should
policy.
just leave it in there.
The only thing on this thing, Nate, with the, you know, I've got 2 adopted kids and now I've got 4 and I've got 5 grandchildren. I understand it all, but are we touching all the employees?
That's,
We're touching all the young employees, all the new employees, maybe them are the ones we're trying to attract. But if we're gonna do something like that, I just feel like you wanna touch all the employees.
Extend it to.
and
Years to come.
and that's a very fair point, and I don't know how to touch
Yeah.
all the employees.
Right.
But I do think that going forward, we certainly should have something like this in our, something like this as not just a recruiting tool, but to better match culture with, employees. Go ahead, Director Wodolski.
So I guess the question is, are you saying that there should be a compensation aspect or just the time off aspect?
So my email to Administrator Donner and Clerk Weinkoff was 4 weeks paid time off.
Okay, because otherwise, like, maybe to Keith's point or, President Maloney's, the FMLA and even medical leave, being able to utilize that is to care for other people within your family. So,
Or yourself.
or yourself or others within your family, so whether it's, okay.
It talks,
Doesn't FMLA allow for paternal leave?
Well, it allows for the leave, and the leave has absolutely nothing to do with the compensation. It's all
Yeah,
about job
FMLA does not.
protection. Yeah.
But it allows for like a parent, a paternal.
Yes.
Up to
Yeah.
12 weeks.
Up to
Yep.
12 weeks for both
So
individuals.
you're asking for compensation, yeah.
Right.
So
That's different.
in most private sectors even, I'll just use my company, employees accrue PTO. And paid time off is used for vacation, sick time, personal time, whatever they want. They manage it appropriately. They get no extra compensation for paternal leave, maternity leave, et cetera, unless it qualifies under disability pay. So you've got kind of two situations here where the female qualifies for disability pay up to a certain percentage. And then they can use PTO or not to make them whole, depending on how much PTO they have in their bank. So so if we have a male taking the family medical leave off, they don't qualify for disability pay, but
Right.
they can use their PTO to replace that income. There's not a separate bank just for that. So you'd have to be careful in how you set that up for both genders.
Right.
Because one qualifies because they're disabled.
Right.
And the other is not. So that's just something I think we need to keep in mind as we're looking at that benefit, to keep it consistent between both genders.
And for my company, I think it's you qualify for, from day one of hire, you qualify for 21 months of paid time off, regardless if you're adopting or have a newborn for the lifetime of your employment with the company.
21 what?
21 months?
Lifetime.
Lifetime,
21 months?
lifetime.
Months.
Months or 21 days?
21 months.
My best recollection is months.
Yeah, you want to.
Because it's lifetime of your employment with the company.
Wow.
For as long as your children are under 18?
No,
Where do you work? Where do you work?
mutual.
That's a huge company.
Yeah, no, I've got a lot of people that work there. Yeah, I've never heard that.
21 months.
I've never heard of
Wouldn't cover a 35-year employee.
No, it wouldn't. And again, to the point that was mentioned, I don't know how to touch all employees equally. I'm just saying that this is a policy that we should consider.
Yeah.
Trustee White?
So if you take a look, under 1305, it talks, if we modify that a little bit, allow for compensation, it says 12 weeks unpaid. But I think if we put the thing in that you can use PTO, accumulated PTO, except for your medical leave bank. That's what we would call catastrophic.
Serious health condition.
Yeah, serious health condition for yourself. But I think if we put that in there, make sure that they're allowed to use PTO for that. And if they have a problem, I think maybe we should contribute a couple weeks, not 4 weeks, a couple weeks. And then after that, you can continue on by using your own PTO. I think it's kind of a shared responsibility between employee and employer that we're gonna take some of this burden, but I think you need to share some of it.
So your medical leave bank is for the employee's own serious health condition.
Correct.
So if someone's going on family medical leave, they qualify for the income replacement, which is how much? Sorry. The income
Income continuation is 75% of their wages.
That's a really great benefit, by the way.
But
Most
you know,
industries are 60.
we're finding some things out
Great benefit.
that are not in the handbook, and we need to get in touch with the state about this because.
Good night, everybody, thank you.
Nice, but-
I've met all of, Vicky, I've never actually met you, so. Nice meeting you. Remember that $100?
Hi. We currently have an employee out, and she just had a baby. And so she did use the income continuation, and she's trying to tell me that, the state works with a third party that manages the program. And she told me there's these elimination periods. And hers is a 30-day elimination period.
Oh,
That's a big elimination period.
Yeah, there's 30, 60,
Usually 7.
90, and 180, I think. That's
Probably
what
for
they are.
LTD.
Huh?
Probably for long term is the 190.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
So she's telling me that for those 30 days, she only got paid for 2 weeks, meaning that 4 weeks, because it's a 30-day elimination period, that 30 days, she didn't receive any benefit from them.
Right.
So she only received 2 weeks of benefit at 75% of her wages, which to me, I thought, well, maybe this isn't such a great benefit after all.
Not with that waiting period.
And I haven't like I need to take the time to contact them and get a little bit more information because it doesn't say that in the handbook anywhere, that
Yeah,
that's how that elimination period works.
that's a long elimination period, especially for a short term.
I've never heard.
Common you hear
I've never heard
7-day
30 days.
elimination period or
7 days.
30,
Do
60,
you have an
90.
option to shop around or are you stuck with the state?
No, well, the program is through the Wisconsin retirement system.
Okay.
And and what's strange about it, and the reason this benefit is probably like it is we've probably been on this for 6 years, a holiday premium, they call it. And so we don't have to pay premiums right now because this fund through the state or through the third party that manages it is doing so well that local government employees do not have to pay premiums on it. And what I did also find out is before the local government employees were on a holiday premium, the state employees were also on the holiday premium. That's how well this fund is doing. Well, now I know why, now we know why. And now we know
They don't, they're
why.
not paying.
Now we know why this fund is doing so well. So you're right. After she told me this, I thought, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
This benefit is,
Is it really a benefit?
no.
Especially if it's only, I mean, I don't know how they process the disability claim itself, just, because typically maternity leave is just 6 weeks.
Yeah.
From a disability perspective and 2 more weeks if it's a cesarean section, so they're not paying much on that.
No.
That is one of our highest used benefits right now, short-term disability, because of the number of works that our generation is having right now, right? So it's a very highly used benefit.
I think we do need to take a better look into that benefit. Because once the holiday premium goes away, the employer pays both the employee and employer share up to the 90-day elimination period, meaning that you have to be off work 90 days with an injury or having a baby or whatever it is before any benefits will kick in.
As I recall, that the employee also has the option of paying for the shorter
Yes.
period.
And that is right. But right now, because we're on this holiday premium, most employees changed their, they were on the 90 or whatever.
Changed it to
because
30.
That's what was being paid for by both the employer share, that was being paid for by the employer. Well, now that we're on a holiday premium, it would be silly not for everyone to take the 30-day holiday or the elimination period. But again.
This is one of the supplemental insurances that a lot of people purchase through and I think I have one through Aflac.
Yes, we also offer that, but the employer doesn't pay anything
The
towards that.
employer would pay.
It's voluntary, so.
It might be something worth looking into. I know when I started my company, they had their short-term and long-term disability rates were pretty high, but I haven't looked at it. So I'm like, I would like a review of our account. Help me understand why this is so high. And we changed a few things in it and it is a really cheap benefit. But we have 257 employees. I don't know about your experience with disability benefits.
So do you, Mickey, do you have that income continuation at they offer that?
Through the time of college, it's paid for, but I never had to utilize it, so I guess I don't know how much.
Sure.
I had my son so long ago, because I am well over 30.
Don't admit that to me.
Yeah, we offer short-term disability and across to the employee at Green Tech. It's 100% paid for office employees and it's a negotiated benefit through the union contract and it's 60% for shop.
So given the situation that you're in right now, I do think that is a nice perk to offer. Not everyone's gonna take advantage of it, but it is what it is. And
Yeah.
if you have only 36 employees, I think it's a great benefit.
It's not gonna
To
cost us a
offer
lot of money.
4 weeks, especially if there's a 4-week waiting period, offer something.
Yeah, you should need to offer some sort
And
of.
then it's just
substation.
internal management of the income replacement for both parents for parental leave.
For
And I
the 4 weeks,
apologize, because Keith is probably just hearing this now.
Yeah,
Because, so I apologize because
That was what was,
this was a recent conversation I had with Heather on the phone. And she's still gone on FMLA, but we will be trying to work out this.
Well, if
kind of
there's
like
two
rumbling,
conversations
hasn't
going
occurred to
on
me
here.
that I think there's been bills.
Anyway, so I apologize, Keith. That you're first hearing this now.
I had the links.
So we wanna revisit our income continuation insurance arrangement, whatever it is, through whoever's offering the policy, and how we might do that in the village to the level we thought we were providing. And then the committee support are looking at some kind of a parental leave policy for newborns? Is that what you're asking us to do, or what? What are
You may wanna
Are you gonna make a motion to that effect?
present it two ways, either a shared responsibility, they can use their PTO 2 weeks from the village, or some, because I personally think it should be a shared responsibility.
I like that one.
I think so too.
4 weeks, because you're gonna have to look at the budget impact.
correct.
Right.
Yeah, I wouldn't make any decisions until you, I mean, it's hard to predict here, but I would kind of do an estimate of what kind of budget impact you'd look at, because someone's gonna have to fill in that work, depending on who the employee is.
Well, they'll be off anyway.
Yeah,
Well, I was just gonna say, you've already budgeted for their compensation for a full year, so whether they take the time off without pay,
Mhm.
but, I mean, we're gonna pay it anyway.
right.
It's a combination.
But if they, if it's a
Yeah.
position where,
Let the employee work from home for those 4 weeks.
Oh,
I can hardly brush my teeth in my first board.
there still could be an overtime that it could drive another employee into overtime.
Yeah,
And different things, so there is gonna be a budget impact regardless, I think. It doesn't sound like, it's not really a free benefit, there'll be some budgetary impact that you might wanna account for, I'm just saying.
So then, my question is, would this apply to both newborns and adoptions as originally stated? Or would this be just newborns?
So Nate, the handbook also says foster children.
Yep.
I would follow your FMLA policy, whatever's in the handbook.
Right, I think that
We're birth.
it's dependent child, and
Yeah.
dependent
Yeah.
child is got a pretty large.
Yeah.
Large definition.
And if you stick to the FMLA rules of it, then the employees are eligible for it until after they meet that eligibility criteria, which is after 1 year and have
Right,
worked
right,
at least
right.
1,000 hours or 1,250 under federal.
Yep.
But that way you're not giving away the farm to a new hire right away either.
Right,
Right,
right.
So is there a motion on the table
On that particular issue?
for, one way or the other for item 6? The family leave question.
Well, I'll take a stab at wording it,
Okay.
because I don't think there's any commitment from anyone of what we're doing, but I would make a motion that the administrator review potential for parental leave for the first 4 weeks following the FMLA guidance of eligibility.
You're at 4 weeks.
Correct.
Okay.
Is there a second?
However he wants to,
However he wants to look at that, whether it be partial payment, 50%, combination.
It's a very good
Review it.
So he's bringing a recommendation back to us.
Yes.
Yes.
I would second that.
All right, there is a motion by Hardworth, second by Heg. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. All opposed? Motion carries. All right, item 7.
It's basically just a study.
Right.
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 All right.
Discussion of philosophy for compensation matrix structural adjustment. Good thing we put all of these discussions in one meeting.
This is a hefty.
This ties back to, I think, some of the original comments that were made on the overall package, and I guess, again, is this a time for panic, or is this a time to kind of step back? We've budgeted, I think it is 2%, well, I know it is 2%, it's 2% across the board overall for our compensation adjustments in 2022 and within our general fund. There's also another $10,000 that is in there for contingency or for additional merit increases. So anything that we would do above and beyond that, we'd have to be creative and find some other budget substitution items, if we were gonna be proposing anything. I guess as things always shake out, we bring in newer employees and we, they start out at a little bit lower wage, sometimes there are some found money in there to some extent, but I guess I don't know that after thinking more about this, I don't know that we need to make an adjustment in our matrix without having some kind of a study or a review done, a compensation study. I think that's what we need to do. Since we haven't done one since 2015, 2015, yeah.
Oh.
Well, I don't know if we should feel bad. Bulver's starting one and they haven't done one since 2003, so I don't think we're out of the range. We're right to where we're at the point where we should be looking at it, especially with the way the world is right now.
Study
And I don't know that we
at this time.
I have to consider,
14.
what's that?
A market study would be beneficial at this time if it hasn't been done in 7 years.
I think you almost have
Sure.
Is there any other municipalities that you could go in on? I mean, because some of the jobs are the same. I mean, is there some way to share a market study with other municipalities of similar size, and so you don't have to incur the cost?
I thought we talked about that one time here, and there was some fear that there might be some perception of collusion or something among.
Well, you'd have to hire a third party.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you wouldn't do it
Yeah.
yourself.
Not one entity can.
Not only
facilitate
that,
it.
but
You'd
it's
have
hard
have
to
a third
compare apples and apples. One may term this the job and the other, and there's
there's a little bit of that happens.
The last time it was done by job description more so than by
Right.
what you're hired to do. As you recall, Fred, you were here
Versus
too when that
title.
went on.
what's that?
Carlson Denton.
I was gonna
Yeah.
say Carlson Detman is pretty much the standard for public organizations. I mean, some people love them, some people hate them, but that is the standard. So Carlson Detman is usually what people use, and they are usually able to match the job titles. And that's how they'll do it. They'll actually go out to other municipalities, they'll pull the job titles that are similar sounding,
Right.
and then they will do an average. I mean, that's how it's done, and that's all they're gonna do.
Well, in the last one that was done, I think our gut feeling was that that's exactly what they did. Yet they came in and they did all these things called the job description questionnaire.
Mhm.
They were actually taking your duties and your level of decision-making and then tried to tie that to where your place was on the matrix. In the end, I don't know that I believe that that's the way it's done, but
Keith,
I'm wrong.
I would
Maybe I'm too
support that
cynical.
process 100%.
what's that?
You need to make sure you've got a good updated job description, so that questionnaire is extremely helpful to understand what the actual duties are, and then you do take that, and then you matrix that out based against, certain criteria, to your point, level of decision-making, and then that corresponds to a salary grade. So I fully support that process from my experience.
That's how it's done.
So again, then the only thing is that something like that's gonna be a pretty long-term, 6 months or more, I'm sure, to get accomplished.
I don't know if it needs to be this time, because our job description probably just needs some tweaks, because you didn't have anything previously, if I'm remembering.
No, we didn't.
So you now have a good library of job descriptions, so some minor tweaking really shouldn't take.
Well, I can find out. I had a conversation with the current,
I'm getting old.
I don't know, what is his name? Carlson Detman. And I know he's willing to talk about it. I think there were some, I don't know, some residual, what do I say? What's the word I'm looking for? Residual doubt in how the study was done and
Validity in the,
we need to be very open
yeah,
about the process this time, I think, would be the bottom line.
People always
influence
question.
was cherry picking.
It happened at our organization.
Cherry picking.
Yeah, and that's why that's why it was so important to provide each employee to provide a true picture of what they did. You know, and cover everything, but everyone thinks they should be compensated more than they are. You're gonna have it, And it happened when we went through the huge massive thing with Carlson Detman. But then they pointed out very clearly, yes, look at, here's your compensation. If you wanna go, and that's what the one thing I was thinking about earlier, is if you show people how they get to the next level of compensation by taking on those, that's where I think
More
just
training,
kind of
more skills.
structuring a matrix
Right.
based on job duties.
More decision
Say,
making.
yeah, okay, you're at this level, to get to this level, here's the additional duties you would need to do, this is the additional expertise. And I know you have it down here, goal setting and achievement, and annual review process, it all has to tie out. All of these different things are so connected, and without having all of that performance management tied in, for one, you set yourself up for liability, you set yourself up for disenchantment with the organization, you damage your culture. Because people are gonna start talking and they're gonna feel like, well, I didn't get this and I didn't hear this, and I didn't,
Yeah,
I didn't get I didn't get a pay raise, all these other people got merit raises, why didn't I? Because everyone believes that they earned it and they deserve it. So,
and Keith, I remember when that happened because I assisted with that process, but I came in and actually talked to a village meeting and went through did a presentation on the whole compensation process and how salary ranges work. I don't know if that was a positive or not, but we were fully transparent about the data, the process, why we made the changes we made.
And how you move through the matrix.
And how you move through that matrix, so, I don't know.
Director Wodolski?
I guess I just had a question. I mean, you mentioned, what can I do to move up? Again, a lot of the public works, we don't have
Progression.
a hierarchy per se. You don't become a supervisor and then a manager and then a superintendent. We have a lot of people that make a lot of independent decisions on an hourly basis. And that's what we expect of our employees is they have that. And I think a perception perhaps in the past was that wasn't being captured. A street operator was a street operator. And so when guys could go look at, a neighboring community and be like, well, they're advertising for something that's $2 an hour more than what this guy just said I should be making. That's where some of that I think came into play of how valid is it? Did they just look at my job description or did they actually look at what I do?
well, and that's right back to the point of having this matrix done and then building those opportunities within there. Because if you just say a street operator is a street operator, then, you're not gonna attract any talent.
And we went back after the fact and added
Yeah,
rungs to the ladder.
yeah, so those.
The initial
rungs are-
study didn't have those rungs.
Right, but the person who's doing your compensation survey is only as good as what information you provide them.
Correct, exactly.
So, yeah. So it's really, and I went through this whole compensation survey, and went through Carlson, Detman and all that. And it was so important, and the people who actually am putting the time and the energy and the effort to get the job description, and getting a full picture of what the role is, that was much better than just kind of going, well, here's my job description. No, you really have to take the time and answer those surveys and be very thorough about what you provide them, because they can only work off what you give them. So I would say, if you're gonna do it, make sure you take the time. It's not, and tell people how important it is to take the time.
It used to be based upon how long you were here. If you recall, Keith probably remembers it. You got a step 5, whether you improved yourself or not, you got another step. You were a street worker 1 or a street worker 2. You automatically got it just because you were here for 5 years or 10 years. So you met some time stamp essentially. And that went away with Act 10. And you have to show, part of the rules of Act 10, you have to show a viable way of why these people are getting more. It's just not automatic. Here, there's another extra $10 an hour. Because you've been here 10 years.
Yeah, because you could hire a new person who is much more qualified and does a much better job than someone who's been there 10 years.
Correct.
We switched after Act 10 at my current organization, we switched to merit-based raises. So there's 3 levels of raises and it's all tied into performance management. And the performance management is how the raises are.
Right.
And it has to be tied out to goal setting, achievement, and merit. And so, you know, there's 3 levels and it's all based on that feedback. And I have an opportunity, just like everybody else does, to fill out my own. Like I fill out my own performance management. And then my supervisor fills out one, and then we get together and we work through it together, and then we come down with where I land in the scale.
We did that at the hospital every year. I was there for.
And that is our current practice.
That's right now.
Right.
I guess that was time.
But is it tied to compensation?
Sorry?
Is it tied to the compensation and merit pay raise?
You know, we've been told different things in the past, that it really isn't tied to your compensation, but
Yeah, it's pretty standard now that that's how it goes.
here's the other question, I guess, you know, so if you're not at least getting a CPI adjustment or some basic amount of adjustment, you're falling behind every year. I mean.
Everybody gets a raise.
Everybody gets a basic raise.
Everybody gets a basic.
These are things that I think are lacking probably in our plan. I'd like to say, I think we're better than we've ever been, because in the past it's been so very subjective. But I know we need to make it, we can still improve, we can make it better, and that's probably what, you know, ties into that last item on the agenda here, but I think that's, we haven't made.
One of the things we had to do at the hospital, we had to ask 3 of our peers to fill out a ballot on us.
Oh, you did a 360 review.
That was challenging.
That
And
doesn't work so well in.
it depends upon, and you're pointing to an issue about personnel. You can have an absolutely perfect supervisor, absolutely perfect employee, and they can have such a personality conflict, it's
Yeah.
not gonna be solved.
Yeah, so true.
I think that's gonna be challenging with an organization of 36 employees.
Yeah.
Yeah, everyone's gonna get peer feedback forms and they're not gonna fill them out.
No, that doesn't happen, does it?
I know.
We do a service review process, which is not a individual, it's about the services provided, and so that's how we kind of, it's not a true 360 review, but it's a service review.
So is that a process that was outlined or recommended by your compensation?
No, it's not even tied to compensation, it's just about continuous improvement.
It's a management process.
Yeah, it's a management process, and we only have to go through service review, and it's based on departments, and we go through service review every 5 years. Our programs, our occupational programs and our general education programs, they go through it every year. So we go through that, but services are every 5.
So there.
You have something to add?
Okay, my only comment on that though is, I guess, again, going back to the comment before, I feel like we're gonna be somewhat reacting maybe to situations that may occur with, you know, some of the forces out there in the market. So I suppose what we need to do is we need to get through our reviews and, I guess, make our recommendations for going forward in 2022 in a more timely manner. I guess after that, we can await the compensation study probably is what we need to do.
Anything else on that agenda item? Okay, moving on to item 8, resignation of Jason Leonard, fleet foreman.
Move to approve and accept.
Motion by White, second by Schuster, all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Item 9, recommendation to promote Ryan Schmidt to fleet foreman, classification and compensation adjustment.
All moved.
Motion by
Sounds like he's a
Schuster.
good fit.
Motion by Schuster, is there a second? Second by Dirk Sluby. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you, Michael, for your input on that.
Sure, not a problem.
Item 10, mechanic recruitment, Director Wodolski.
Yeah, I guess right now we've got 400 hits on the website and 4 applicants. So,
Good
I was
ratio.
gonna say, yeah, that's pretty standard.
yeah, I mean, you know, as we talk about,
Everybody's looking, nobody's buying.
well, it's hard, you know, we talk about working in this sector, trying to figure out how I can say this.
Be honest.
Half of the applicants, or out of the four, work in a similar role just for a different entity in central Wisconsin. You know, so I think one thing we found, I mean, even one of our recent hires came from the city of Antigo.
So poaching.
So I guess that, yeah, to a certain extent, you know, you don't want to hurt your fellow, you know, community. But at the same time, it seems like there's not a lot of people that, you know, see the public sector as a job that they want to go to anymore. And it ebbs and flows. I know one summer we recruited 2 people. I think we had 11 applicants all summer. This past summer, I think we had like 40 for 2 open positions. So it's a little better than what was, you know, back in.
You wouldn't wanna even consider that. Oh, we're not gonna interview this guy.
No, I no,
Works for
of
Rothschild.
course not. I mean, like I said, we just hired a guy from the city of Antigo.
I don't think it bothers them either to interview our people, so.
Yeah.
It's not like we
No.
Right.
But
have some unwritten pact that doesn't happen.
But I guess my question maybe is there something that we do, or maybe this is just common everywhere, that we're not doing enough to make people go, oh, hey, I really want to go work for the village of Weston. You know, our employees might say, yeah, we're great, but I don't know a diesel mechanic, so I don't have a friend.
So if you saw the HR packet there, they made.
We kind of covered that subject earlier.
Of their organization, I know that was one of the things that came up in this presentation, I kept.
But they're also looking for 2 mechanics.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
hard.
Is that yours?
We're experiencing the same thing in healthcare.
Yeah.
And we're robbing Peter to pay Paul down the
Yeah.
road.
Yeah.
So everyone's, you know,
And I guess that's where, you know, we talk about the compensation. I mean, eventually, do you go, hey, I can go make, you know, maybe it's not 50 cents, maybe it's $2.50, $3.50 if I go over there. So I don't know.
yeah, and it's just interesting. We're starting to track this because one of our local competitors that might have worked there for a long time. They're starting to pay for their housekeeping to a huge dollar amount that other healthcare workers, it's gonna be very difficult to compete with. And I've had some staff say, well, so-and-so is making this much, and I want to say, like the McDonald's, then go flip burgers at McDonald's if that's gonna give you more job satisfaction. And 9 times out of 10, they continue to stay because they have meaningful work.
Yeah, and that's what I've told people. I mean, you know, here, you know, the one community or the 2 that may pay more. But I mean, you know, you talk about meeting with your staff. I see the staff every morning, as well as our deputy director. You know, and asking them, you know, how was your weekend? How's your kid doing? Remembering the name of their kid, their
That's
spouse.
really important.
Yeah.
That is
Yeah.
very important.
You know, those things I think matter, but
You know, getting I don't know what you're using for your recruitment channels, if you're doing Facebook pushes, Instagram's a new thing, especially with those millennials. No, there's no millennials on Facebook anymore. They're all Instagramming and snapping. And so you can purchase on Instagram, like an ad type of thing, so you can pop up with a certain genre. Because they're not on Facebook anymore. I mean, Facebook will get a different generation, so you almost have to be on both platforms at this point.
I think that might be more true of Gen Z than
Or Gen Z.
millennials. Because millennials are 20 to 45 and a lot of, but that's.
The high schoolers are off,
Are you talking?
or never got on Facebook.
No,
Mechanics, right?
Yeah.
22-year-old
So.
rarely is on Facebook. He's on Instagram and Reddit.
She's not on Facebook.
advertise with the Tech Connect or whatever.
I wouldn't even bother doing that. This is what I would recommend possibly. So what I know from having worked at NTC for many years, and I actually helped get that diesel program started through grant funding. Most of those students going through there actually are working part-time with with the organization, and they're going to school part-time. That's how they've set it up. They've scheduled it that way. So they actually get recruited before they even start the program into a part-time role. Then they continue to go. So it's kind of, and they're actually building out, they're actually just got approval to do a diesel apprenticeship program. So I'd recommend that because that's where everybody's gonna start going is through that diesel apprenticeship program. So if you can take on someone for an apprenticeship, you might actually have a really good success.
A lot of our businesses in the area have done that. Or
Mm-hmm.
manufacturing.
That's the wave right now,
Heavy metal
diesel
programs
apprenticeship
for
for mechanic program.
I just want to piggyback off of what committee member Dirk Sluby said. I mean, for me, in high school and even younger in kindergarten, go to college, go to college, go to college, go to college. But college isn't right for everyone. I think that we gotta do, or we gotta get into high schools during job fairs. We should be there all the time. You love the area, you love getting your hands dirty, you love doing an honest day's work, come work for the village of Weston.
Yeah, and I know
Bring the biggest excavator you got.
and we've talked to the tech historically about trying to create, you know, if you wanna go be a carpenter, you can go get a carpenter apprentice, you can be a welder, you can be an electrician, you can be a concrete guy, a mason, but there's no necessarily program that says, hey, I wanna go be a municipal, you know, public works worker, operator. And I don't know if that's even part of it is, you know,
They
feel
have a
like
utility program now at NTC, don't they?
the diesel. or-
They have the diesel program, but I thought they had a utility program, and there are multiple.
And that might be electrical utility.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that they started a electrical utility.
Yeah.
But yeah, the other thing is too is, I would connect with NTC's youth apprenticeship program and start growing your own with youth apprenticeship.
And I guess that's the other question, you know, besides, before recent, I mean, we had a mechanic that was here for 40 years. And then, the other guy was here for what, 26? That was what Doug was here for. So, you know, it's not like these are positions that we have on a
Yeah,
recurring
right,
basis
right.
either. It's a, hopefully once every, you know, 25-year type of thing.
Hey, I argued for many times with certain people on the school board about if they weren't college material, the student was just pushed to the side.
Yep.
And that philosophy
Big mistake.
has to change.
It has to change.
And again, I've met many times with school board and staff over there about that issue.
I know a guy 2 years younger than I am, he's a lineman. And for the couple hours a year that he has to dangle out of helicopters and do everything on the high tension wires, for those couple hours a year, he makes $100 an hour.
Yep.
That's really hard to argue with.
And that's, I would think he made more. Yeah.
Yeah.
But
Moving right along.
yes, moving right along, anything else for item 10?
No, it's ongoing, and as soon as we find a good candidate, we'll, look to lock them down and bring them on board, so.
And then item 11, discussion of goal setting and achievement in annual employee review process. Administrator Donner, is there something you wanted to specifically discuss on this, or have we more or less talked it to death with everything?
This was actually requested by,
Oh,
through you and another
yes,
trustee.
sorry. This,
You are older than you think.
Okay. You're 20?
look,
Under 30.
all I'm saying is that third grade was the best 3 years of my life. And that even there, I was the second smartest of the two dumbest.
So I know we talked about this several times,
Yeah.
probably with this committee, and I guess we touched on it already. We have a process that with our reviews that when we sit down with our reports every year, that we talk about certain things we want to accomplish. Those are listed and agreed upon essentially, and then do we follow up in between as much as we should? No. And I think a lot of times there are things that occur that we probably allow to get us sidetracked. Maybe that's the other reason for meeting more frequently. But in the end, we do review the progress that's made, and that's, that's supposed to be our measure of whether they went over and above perhaps, or, their goals for the year. But, Sherry, I know, is prepared to show us some stuff here if we want, but I don't know if there's more, we can probably put together more specific
And
explanation or description of things. I don't know if there are specific questions that were being proposed or being posed on this.
so the one, the individual that requested this through me, wanted to know if we were utilizing a program within Casell Connect in order to track goals.
We're doing it through a program called NeoGov.
Okay.
Yes, that's where we actually that's where we do our hiring as well.
Mhm.
But yeah, we're managing those evaluations and the goals through NeoGov. And they have a module that's actually called Perform, so.
Yeah,
I got,
go
sorry,
ahead.
I was gonna ask a question. How does the employees' goals connect to, and I don't know, is there a strategic plan for the village?
There is an old one. That's one of the administrators' work plan items for this coming year is to get that process going. It's not gonna be done. We're just, what I need to do is tie our director's goals for the year to what we may want to accomplish, as far as the board sees as our mission this year. But we need to have a more updated strategic plan for the village because I think we get a lot of, 1 week we want one thing and then we go to another committee and somebody wants something else and we need to have everybody working towards the same things.
Because that's what I would say, if I'm with the performance management, and I'll defer to Linda and Robin and Lawrence and Fred's as well. This is how it's always been in every organization I work at. The strategic plan is at the top. This is the vision, that there's overarching organizational goals. And then every department's, they all have goals that roll up in that strategic plan to make sure those, and then there's metrics, there's measurements, there's evaluation process. Department goals roll up into that. And then everybody's moving in the same direction. This goes back to culture too. And then based on each of our individual jobs, what goals do we have that is gonna move our department goals forward and then move the whole goal? And if that's not tied in there, your performance management, I say your performance management then is ineffective. That's just that would be my assessment based on understanding performance management, and I would defer to anybody else as well.
Yeah, I mean, that's
100%.
similar process that I've used in the past.
And I also think
Yeah.
that also can, if you don't have a structure like that that's really tied and put together like that, you also open yourselves up to liability.
Mhm.
Because documentation of that, especially if you get a disgruntled employee and they say, well, that person got a merit raise, I did this, why, that's why everything, and then compensation, merit raises all tie into that
We
system.
had a pretty good process, though. A few years ago, we put something in place, didn't we? With reviews?
Yeah, with reviews,
Yeah.
we've removed a lot of ambiguity and
Yeah.
subjectivity.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So I guess as I said, I think we're doing better than we've done before. In the past, it's been
Agreed.
very subjective, it was like, okay, somebody
Yeah.
liked what somebody liked a certain person or didn't like another person.
Yeah. Yeah.
There was too much of that involved, I think we've been winning with that.
Yeah, I agree.
But with that strategic plan is your focus, that kind of, then it takes out, because then you have to, when we set goals for our department, when we set goals for us personally, there's metrics tied to it. And so it's not about whether my boss likes me or not, it's like, here's what my goal was, did I achieve that goal? It wasn't about whether she likes me or not, it's about whether I actually met.
And it should be a measured goal.
It's gotta be
So,
measured.
I think you have a 3-point rating. Yeah, so there's gotta be a tie, of a metric of 0 to whatever is.
It has to be a SMART goal.
1 or 2 or 3. They can be very difficult to create, but they're very doable.
Yeah.
Once you have that goal.
Yep.
The target.
Well, I think the other thing, sometimes we have over promised maybe on our goal setting, so I don't know I guess maybe the scope of the goal that dictates how many things we think we can
Mhm.
focus on. I don't know, maybe, what do you see in your worlds on that?
For the strategic goal,
Well, just, yeah, well, the strategic, whatever it is you set for an employee, that you wanna make certain progress towards that goal, you wanna make, I mean, there's, I don't know, maybe you're setting, looking for a milestone, not that, it may not be completed in 1 year, that kind of thing, I mean, those are realistic things, I guess we have to think about when we set them, I imagine, right?
yeah. Well, from an employee's perspective, it has to be achievable.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so
Gotta be
your
realistic.
strategic goal is gonna be the stretch. And then you start at that director level, then what can they do from their perspective to help achieve that? And then you roll that down like Vicki was saying into the employee, they're not gonna be strategic in nature, they might just be day to day. If you have a service goal or a goal of enhancing your culture, you drive some sort of customer service expectation with your staff. I don't know how you measure that, but it could be something very basic to the frontline staff, and it could be a different measure from a mechanic perspective. You know, everything that they do can tie into that one goal. A service goal is a really great goal to get. You can look at that, there's so many different things that you could do with it.
Right, and this is where it's easy then to provide feedback as managers. Because you can definitely see, especially, so a SMART goal, I'm sure everyone does, specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and has a timeline.
Right.
Yeah, they all goals should have that. A strategic plan should have that, and usually a strategic plan's gonna be 5 years. And then you'll actually have 5 years of measured goals that the organization wants to achieve. And then you roll up every year into that. And if you can make adjustments, you know, there's gonna be times you're gonna fall a little bit short.
Or
And you can
COVID
have
happens.
Right, yeah, I mean, COVID, right there, like all of the goals we had, we had to readjust and. But I know what I'm being measured on, I know what my expectations are, because it's very specific and it's measurable. And
Because
so,
it's tied to the strategic plan, it's not just
Yeah.
an annual discussion.
Right.
Should be having those one-on-ones on a regular basis, say, okay, you know, how are you doing to this? You know, do you need any additional resources or, you know, what roadblocks can I break down for you?
that's exactly, then my boss is like, okay, I know this is your goal. What's getting in your way? What can I do to help you get to that goal? Because her focus is to help me achieve my goal, because if I achieve my goals, she achieves her goals.
Right, yeah.
You know, and the department achieves their goals, it all rolls. Yeah, that is really an important thing, and it works wonders for culture.
Mhm.
Because all of a sudden, we're all working towards the same goals. This is what we're doing
And it
together.
creates meaningful work.
And it
Yes.
creates
Yep.
meaningful work and it gives a vocational.
Okay, so I don't know if there's any particular magic to the Cassell version of a goal tracking software versus what our NeoGov does. I guess we would certainly not advocate changing from our
Oh, no, I wasn't.
HR software thing.
I wasn't suggesting that at all. Cassell has their own salespeople, but if it works for,
Okay,
Clerk Weinkoff and, you and everyone else, I don't care, as long as it gets the job done.
It was done on paper. Pardon me?
Was that 2 years ago? Was that the tool you showed me? We were in a conference room, you pulled up an online tool, was that?
Yeah.
Probably, yes.
Okay.
Yep,
And you can basically customize your goals in there.
yes.
Yeah.
Yes, you can, so what happens through the process is from year to year, the goals transfer over, obviously. And then you can decide if you want to add that goal to the evaluation because of COVID, maybe there was no reason to add it. And then, they all pull over and you can add, maybe something came up during the year and maybe it should be measured, so you can add that in and then the employee will rate themselves on that. And then the supervisor will rate them as well. So I think it's a nice system.
Yeah, I don't think this is about the system, though. I think this is about the process.
Content.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
And then tying a merit increase
Yes.
score.
Yeah.
That's what I think we get hung up on every time we look at the comp reviews is what is the score? Because that score should be driving that merit increase to complete. to keep it completely objective in nature, so there were not any gender discriminations, age discriminations.
So many discriminations if you do
Oh.
not have a system that, I mean, any unintentional bias is a real thing, so you have to always be sensitive to that. And it doesn't matter if you felt like you were biased or not, someone else's perception of whether or not you're biased will open you up for liability. This kind of eliminates all of that because it becomes very subjective.
I know. Can you ever take the subjectivity out? I don't
It's
know.
hard,
I'm really,
it's hard, it is hard, but it helps to support your decisions.
Mhm. Yeah, it's very clear once you have that measurement process in place, though no one will, when you have the measurement and the tools in place, no one will ever question, because you'll be able to point to it and say, this is how it rolls here, this is the measurement, so it eliminates that.
Ken, is there anything you'd like brought back at the next meeting on this?
I'm satisfied.
Okay.
So does anyone have anything else, for item 11? Some of this stuff makes me feel like I'm rereading an ethics book called On Justice by John Rawls. It's a thought experiment that you have no idea what you're going to look like in life, so try and come up with a list of values that are perfect for all people at all times, and it's impossible. It hurt reading. Okay, remarks from staff. I'm going to start with Sarah.
Am I gonna see my last name? My new last name?
Yes, your new last name. Congratulations.
I have nothing, by the way.
Okay, Clerk Weinkauf,
I don't have anything to add.
Administrator Donner.
I think I've said enough.
That's what we all.
I know, it's a long way tonight.
All right, remarks from committee members, committee member Haig. Committee member Dirks, Luby. Committee member Schuster.
I have none.
Committee member Hackbarth. All right.
Sure, you forgot me.
No, that was done intentionally, Vice Chair White.
I have nothing, other than to welcome Robin.
And we
I've
have
worked
somebody
with
on
Robin
Zoom.
for many years, so.
Shane.
Yep, who's Shane?
Yeah, or at least.
I know, hiding behind his name.
Yeah, I see that.
He never raised his,
There he is.
never raised his hand. There he is.
Hey!
He's alive.
And then I have nothing. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Motion by Haig, is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor say go pack go.
Go,
Go
go,
pack
go.
go. And we are adjourned at 6:57.